In the final week of our work in organizational culture, we're going to be finishing up the book by Gershine, Culture and Leadership. In sections 4 and 5, he gives you first a sense of the process of cultural change. In it, you will recognize what I shared with you last week in the lecture, unfreezing and learning something new. Only this time you will see it from a corporate stand. This, of course, is the heart of the process, so you're seeing it in 2 different weeks from 2 different perspectives. Sheen also gives you a plan. How do you implement this? By analyzing the culture and then making changes. And so his approach to planning cultural changes here. And he also gives you the principles of what he believes make a healthy culture. What are the things that a good, strong corporate culture needs? You will find it, now it's about 100 pages. That's a lot of reading. He's not always easy to read. So you read what works for you. You read to reach your own goals. That's the point. Now, in my presentation, my final piece, I am moving you then in another step beyond what is in the Sheen book or the other material that we've been reading, and that is I want to talk about the competencies that are needed to lead cultural change. Really, they're the competencies of leadership. And I deal with the concept of competencies not at the level of skills and knowledge, which is often how it is described. It is a very rich word, a very deep word, a concept that goes back to the early 70s, and I will trace that with you and some of the key research that most applies to the kind of leadership that we've been talking about. I think you'll find that to be a very helpful piece, and I don't believe you'll find it anywhere else. Now, in addition to that, as you can tell in Sheen's work, and then of course in what I've been sharing, and it was hinted at in the Cameron and Quinn, that dealing with corporate culture really is a spiritual issue. Making these deep kinds of changes that are often so embedded in a culture requires spiritual evaluation, even if we don't have the language for it. And of course, a secular writer doesn't have the full language to be able to describe these things as a biblical or a theological writer. However, there are some wonderful, wonderful books that I just want to suggest to you that look at the spiritual side of corporate life, the secular world, and the spiritual entity that's there that you need to deal with. Let me give you 2 or 3 of these. One that I just love. David White is a poet from Seattle, and he writes poetry to corporate America, and it is amazing. It is wonderful stuff. He takes you through some of the great pieces of poetry from the past, and he applies it to the deep inner nature, the soul life of a corporation and the individuals there. Another that I love, from out in Silicon Valley, this is called The Monk and the Riddle. Much of it takes place in a coffee shop, and I've been in that coffee shop. And this is a book, Harvard Business School Press, kind of amazing. But it really talks about an entrepreneur's saga to try to find backing for his plan. And that in dealing with that, he had to come to investigate his own heart and his own soul. And it's a great, great piece. Another that I want to suggest to you is Anselm Gruen, Heaven Begins Within You. Now, at the end of my lecture, the last one, I have attached a short little paper that I wrote some years ago that just seemed to me to be the right ending for the class. And in it, I quote from this book. This is a monk who works with corporate leaders across Europe, and he guides them through the writings and sayings of the Desert Fathers from the 2nd, 3rd, 4th centuries, and helps them to come to grips with themselves so they can be better leaders in their own companies. This is a great piece. Another that's from our side of the Atlantic, Andre Delbourg has written this wonderful little book called Soul at Work. And it's Margaret Benefield. Andre has written the foreword to it. But this book describes in case study a few organizations that this theologian has worked with and has helped them work through some of the soul issues that are involved. Soul at work, behind the scenes, leading from the inside out, how leaders listen, broadening the balance, nurturing the nurturers, keeping grounded, how organizations listen, putting it all together, putting soul to work in your organization. And if you're looking for something to carry on this idea of spirituality in the corporate workplace, this is great. Now, she's not a Christian writer, you understand. She uses a lot of different backgrounds, but you'll easily make the connection. And just one more, leadership passages, and there's a trio of writers here, and some of you are in the process right now of internal change, hardships, the crisis on the outside calls for reevaluation on the inside, and this is an excellent book, a secular book, excellent book, that walks you through what are the processes that take place here and how do I manage them out here in my workplace as I am going through real transformation as a leader. These leadership passages. So I do recommend it to you as well. I have enjoyed this class immensely. I have enjoyed reading your material. I have enjoyed interacting with you. And I believe God has helped us all. We assess change, our culture, because we want to change culture. And in the heart of that change, God is at work.